I failed at e-commerce until I understood this one thing. Now, this one thing is really crazy and I've never spoke about this publicly. So in 2021, this was a real brand. This was the second month I was able to bring it above $10,000 a month in sales at a 1.69% conversion rate. And I want to show you guys literally 90 days later. So this was in 2021 of September. Then this, as you can see, it's comparing to December of 2021. So this was January of 2022. So literally within 90 days, I was able to bring this store to $145,000 a month in sales and able to take that conversion rate from 1.69% to 2.63%. And then a year later, so as you can see over here, this is comparing to November of 2022. So this is December of 2022. So literally within that year, 1 year later, I was able to take my store to $3 million plus a month in sales. Also, all because of this one thing. And I'm not just exaggerating and saying, this one thing and really had nothing to do with it. This one thing was really the main factor for me being able to go from $10,000 a month to $100,000 a month, and then $100,000 a month to multi-millions a month. Okay, guys, so the one thing that allowed us to do this was funnels. So if you guys don't know what a funnel is, it's essentially a more direct response style of a website where you take people through a logical flow, usually with a pre-lander page all the way to the sales page, then different upsells and a thank you page. So it's really this whole sequence. That's what a funnel is, which then allows you to really maximize the conversion rate that you get from people that land on your website, and also the average order value. So the amount that each customer is worth when they come on that website. And it really allows you to maximize the amount that each customer pays you on that first time visit, which really helps a lot with being profitable on that first acquisition and being able to scale a lot more aggressively. So in this video, what I want to go over is this exact funnel flow. So this is the ideal funnel flow that I've utilized to maximize my scale. So I'm going to show you guys that funnel flow. Then we're going to go over each stage of the funnel flow. So going into each one of these individual components to break down, what that stage looks like. Then I want to go over some of these different metrics you could look at each stage of the funnel so that you can understand how to optimize it and how I go about optimizing it. Then what I want to go over is actual live examples of each one of these stages so that you guys can see what this looks like with some very high performing sales funnels right now for different e-commerce brands. Then I want to show you guys how we actually can go about looking at the testing philosophy from macro changes to micro changes. And then lastly, we're going to go over how to actually take everything you just learned and tactically execute and implement everything so that you can start making changes as soon as you watch this video into your store to try to implement some of these sales funnels and these tactics that I talk about. So I think this is going to be a super informative video that should give you guys a lot of tactical insights that you can take away. So with that being said, let's jump into the funnel flow. So at a high level, here's how the funnel flow looks. So first off, there's the pre-lander page. So this is like an advertorial or a listicle. And for those of you that don't know what an advertorial or listicle is, it's essentially a editorial. So think about it like a blog post that you're reading, but it's an ad that is disguised as the blog. So the blog, it's like a traditional blog that anyone would read or a news site that anyone would read, but it's crafted in a very specific way to lead people to the logical explanation that they need your product to then send them to your sales page. So that page you put before the sales page, where I'm sure a lot of you guys are sending people directly to the sales page. Probably most of you guys are. Some of the more advanced people are definitely using advertorials. But that's what you would want as that first stage. The second stage is the sales page, where I also want you guys to understand this from points of awareness. So usually the pre-lander page is going to be where you can recap from the market stage of awareness where you're also running your creatives from. So this is really the logical flow where you want this to be as broad as possible. So if you're advertising primarily to, let's say, a problem aware stage market, where what that means is people that don't yet know about your product, but they know that they have a problem. So let's say it's back pain. So you're going towards people with back pain specifically. That's where you want to start with this page at. And always with the sales page, you're going to then start at the product aware stage, because these are people that then know that this product already exists. And a lot of what you're going to do here and how you think about your sales page will be comparing different products and really talking about why your product is the best, giving people the best deal, and just allowing them to have all the logical reasons why they should buy your product as opposed to other products. So that's on the sales page perspective coming from the pre-lander page, right? Now, what I'm going to go over in this also is using direct response sales funnels, which I'll show you guys examples of, versus using a more Shopify basic website types of sales funnel. Both of them really achieve the same thing, and I utilize both of them. So I'm going to show you guys both examples, but if you're using the Shopify, then you're going to have the cart section. If you're using a direct response sales funnel, it's just going to go directly to this checkout from the sales page. But that's the next part. So cart to then checkout. Then you have the upsell sequence. So upsell 1, upsell 2, and it can be, really unlimited amount of upsells, especially if you're using a direct response sales funnel. If you're using Shopify, you're going to be capped at 2. So I'll just leave it at 2 for the sake of, breaking down this full example. You can have a downsell. So that's if someone declines your upsell offer, you can give them a better offer as a downsell, which I'll talk about when we get to this part. And then lastly, there's the thank you page where you can actually offer some other offers. So let's start breaking down each one of these stages one by one. So let's start with the pre-lander page where, I think I'm going to actually switch order and show you the pre-lander page with a live example. Okay, guys, so here's a live example of pretty much what I was explaining from a pre-lander page, but I want to walk you guys through exactly how this all works and how this actually leads people to being much more ready to purchase by the time they get to your product page. So where this page is starting from is if we look at this headline, which is really the most important part of this whole page, is Charlene 67. This miracle solution saved my family from a mouse nightmare, and it's 100% safe for my grandbaby and beloved chihuahuas. Okay, so that's the headline over here. Now, what I want you guys to take away from this headline is that this is starting, as I mentioned, at the problem aware stage. So this miracle solution saved my family from a mouse nightmare, and it's 100% safe. So the mouse nightmare is the problem, which it's also, I guess, technically starting from a solution aware stage, but it's not telling you what the solution is. So it's saying that this miracle solution saved my family from the mouse nightmare, which is the problem, and it's 100% safe. So actually, I take it back. This is actually a solution aware because it's talking about 100% safe, because now it's comparing it versus other solutions that people might have tried. So it's 100% safe for getting rid of that mouse nightmare for my grandbaby and beloved chihuahuas. So for the people that you care about. So the point here is that it's starting from where the customers are at. So it's starting from that solution aware. So it's people that know that they already have that problem and are trying to find actively what the right solution is. So the first part of this thing is it's going to start from where that person's at, from where the ideal customer is at, and really start to build out what some of the problems might look like. Okay, so over here, this first paragraph, I'm not going to read through it. You guys can pause if you want and read through what this is actually talking about. But what it's talking about is the first stage, which is the problem stage. So really digging into the problem, showing you guys what that problem will look like, and showing what that nightmare situation actually is. So it's leading you through this journey where you're starting at it, you have this problem, and it's going from a perspective that people can relate with from that problem perspective, right? Then from there, it's showing how that you can go from this problem, which a lot of it, if you notice, through this page, they're utilizing different GIFs so that they can bring this problem to life, not just from a storytelling perspective, but they're actually going to show it to you where you can feel it through showing this problem, right? So now what it's going to go into typically is other solutions that don't work. So over here, it's talking about first I set out trap, she explains, but one of the dogs nearly got her paw caught. So it's showing you all of these common solutions that people might use, but then showing you the dangers or the problems with having those old solutions set up. So over here, it's showing you, the problem that the dog might go and bite it, or that your baby might go run into this poison. So it's showing you these next stage of solutions that don't work, and that's how it's going into the solution aware stage. Then from the solution aware stage, it shows you the new solution that actually does work, which is now leading you to your product, right? In this stage over here. So again, using GIFs, because most people, you have to keep in mind that they're going to be really just scrolling and browsing. So they're not going to be reading the whole thing. So these GIFs really help bring it to life, especially for people that are just, quickly skimming through this. So, now it's kind of setting up the introduction to this product where then it goes into the actual product itself. and how it works. And now this is really where it's going to break down all the features and benefits of this product, why this is the solution that does work, directly combating probably against those other solutions where it's showing you why these solutions would never work. And now it's directly combating against those solutions over here, showing you kind of all those key features and benefits as you go through it, then giving you a lot of credibility and proof. So it's showing you all the customers that have used it, showing you some of the reviews of the customers that have used it. And then this is something that's very common with these advertorial types of pages, where it then walks you through a week by week guide of how people have actually used and benefit from the product. So it shows you these weeks of how it's used, and then the final thoughts. And what's really important with everything that I'm showing you guys here is that it's coming from a third-party perspective, which I think is what makes this so powerful. So even though it is coming from BugMD, it's not usually you're reading this and you're coming from it and you're reading it like it's a different author or a person that you're coming at it from, so that when you're reading through this, you're taking everything that's said as a different opinion and kind of just sharing that opinion. And that's usually how editorials or blogs are written, in that same type of fashion, so that as you're going through it, you're kind of moving your barrier of getting sold, because it's someone that's just telling you their experience and how this worked for them, so that you can listen to it and also come through it from a story perspective, because stories are really the best way to actually sell someone. So again, like just recapping of how we even got to this point, it's we start from the customer, from the problem, right? So really, like, the headline is more solution aware, but regardless, we go into the problem, we twist the knife on that problem so that people can really start to feel it and relate to that problem. So the customers that are reading it, they're feeling the problem, they're resonating with the problem, understanding that problem. Then it's showing you how these other solutions that you might have used to try to conquer that problem straight out just don't work, and just disproving each other solution one at a time, so that you're left feeling stranded and feeling like, what am I supposed to do right now? There's nothing that I can do to solve this problem, to then lead to the introduction of a new solution that conquers the problems that you set out in the beginning, plus those other solutions that didn't work, to then showing them exactly how and why this works and giving them all these different features and benefits, plus, coming at it from a third-party perspective, showing exactly how it worked for the reviewer, to now, pretty much take away any doubts that this product won't work for them. So at this point, if they've read to this point, because people might drop off and not read it or not believe it or whatever it may be, but for the people that have read to this point and actually gone through this, and assuming that they're not a digital marketer that understands everything here, they're probably going to be very convinced that this works, especially assuming that they have the problem and that resonates with them. So that's what you're doing with this pre-lander page. That's the main objective. Now, there's different types of pre-lander pages. So this is called an advertorial page. I'll quickly touch on, which is really the same points I just went over, what a listicle page might look like. So give me one moment there. So this is an example of what a listicle page could look like. Now, this page is also super high scale. We can look at some of the similar web traffic. I guess this one individually is not as much, but I know this brand is scaled to above 10 million a month at a point. So this is for barefoot shoes over here. And what you can see is it follows a very similar pattern. It's just a little bit different. So this is more of like an abbreviated version of what I just showed you. So 10 reasons why to add this barefoot shoes to your 2025 wardrobe. So this is already going to seems like solution aware stage. So these barefoot shoes, where people know that barefoot shoes is a solution. This might even be product aware, actually, when I'm looking at it. But what you can see here is it really is just showing you now the benefits of this product. So yeah, this is definitely more of like a product aware stage, where people know that this exists, and now you're just trying to help people decipher between your barefoot shoes versus other barefoot shoes, of why people would select this one. So the difference here, it's really just, more simplified. It's 10 reasons why. So you're just going into these 10 points over here, and, just showing exactly how this solution would be superior, right? And just going through all those points, but still moving people through a logical type of flow of, just showing them, the features and benefits. And pretty much you're skipping the whole problem aware stage and alternative solutions that don't work, and just leading them right to why this is the most beneficial product that you can use. And that's when you would use more of a listicle type of page, when it's a market that you don't need to educate as much. So I know that was longer, but I want you guys to understand this because this is probably the biggest influencer on your overall conversion rate is getting this page right. Because this page, and I'll show you how we're going to track it in just a bit, is going to be the first touch point if you're utilizing this full funnel flow where customers come. So which means that you're going to have the highest drop off at this point. So if you can get this to convince customers as much, your conversion rates are going to be extremely high on these other pages because you're doing this part correctly. So that's the first part, which is the pre-lander page. The next stage is going to be your sales page. So let's go back to the first example, which is this page over here. Let's move that around. So for this page over here, let me show you what the sales page looks like. Let's go in over here. So this is more of a direct response sales page. So the difference with this style of a page versus sending them to a Shopify page is that they really have nowhere else to go. And that's, one of the benefits of using a funnel. So I'm using this now. Let's look at this from like a mobile point of view. I advise when you're doing this, look at it more from a mobile point of view, but because that's usually where 80% of traffic is going. But let's just look at this, for the sake of video purposes to have the whole screen like this. Okay. So what you look at over here is that even if I click on any of these buttons, it's just taking me to different sections of the page. So my only option is to eventually get to this order now button. Whether I go through any of these sections, it's going to lead me to the same point of order now or leave the site. That's my only options. I can't click on the Bug MD button. I can't go anywhere else. My only flow is leading me closer towards the sale. And that's what is really nice about the direct response sales funnels, because you can manipulate the entire customer journey leading to purchase. So that's what's really cool about this whole, way of going about it. Okay. So that's on this whole section over here. And again, now we're starting from the miracle pouch sends rats and mice running. So this is like more of a product aware, most aware stage, because now people already are well familiar with the product because they're coming from the advertorial. And now you're really just emphasizing again on the benefits that people are going to get when they buy this product. So a lot of it is now giving you the discount. That's a benefit you're going to get if you buy this product. You're going to get 68% off. It's showing you rats and mice hate these pouches to use in your house, emphasizing, that this is going to, take away rats and mice from your house. Showing you, proven protection, plant powered, natural ingredients, going through more of these features and benefits over here. So the whole thing, it's, taking just, exactly how you're going to use it. You unpackage it, place the pouches, enjoy. So it's all oriented to make you buy, showing you versus the other competitors, giving you this graph of exactly, why this one is better versus, anyone else. Plant powered, no. Affordable, no. So showing you all these different reasons why you would buy it, the reviews, the frequently asked questions. So it's really just left to handle any objections at the product stage of questions people might have before buying this product, to answer any of those objections, to then leading them to that purchase page. So this is more in the direct response style, but I want to also compare this with a Shopify style page. So give me a moment. Okay, so this is for a product style page. So let's go into here. Okay, so now this is for more of a Shopify style product page example, which I'll show you towards the end when we get to the checkout page, because there's a lot of those features placed here. But really what you're trying to do, and this is going more towards like the AOV maximization, but this is how you could set it up from a Shopify style, is here you're doing a lot of the stuff we're going to do on the direct response checkout page, but you're doing it on the sales page. But really from a sales page perspective, it's all the same type of stuff. It's really just, talking about highlighted points of why people might go with this product over another, giving you some more testimonials. It's more simplified here because probably that listicle page is doing a lot of the conversion mechanisms, and there's not going to be a lot of objections left on this page, so it doesn't need as much. The really main reasons why you might go with Shopify instead of a direct response funnel is more to keep branding intact, because when you're sending people to this, it's something they're probably more familiar with from a brand perspective. And I think it does help a little bit with brand value. There's nothing inclusive on that. It's just how I feel about it. And here you can do more of like the shop bestsellers. So that's kind of the difference here. It just gives you more of that feel. But as you can see over here, what they're doing still is they're using the same direct response funnel mechanism. So they're giving you the ability to get a cheaper price the more you buy. So for example, this goes from $70. If you buy 2 pairs, it goes down to $63. If you buy 3 pairs, it goes down to $60. So they give you logical reasons why buying more will make sense for you. You're going to get cheaper prices. And for this type of product specifically, where it's shoes and most people want to have multiple pairs of shoes, it makes logical sense why you'd buy more. Plus, you can buy different colors. Plus, you can do for men or for women. So it depends which one you want. So maybe I want to get one. If I'm a woman, I want to buy it for my husband as well. So it gives you a lot of logical reasons why you might want to buy more. And the more you buy, the cheaper that you're going to get it. So for anyone that has a logical reason why they would want more, they're going to opt in to buy more because they're going to get it for cheaper. So you just tie all of those pieces together, which is going to help you maximize your AOV utilizing something like this. Okay. Plus, you can pick different colors. Those are other pieces there. So that's kind of the main things I want to talk about here. Plus, I think from a Shopify style, they're giving a lot of credibility here. So they're showing the customer, plus how many people have bought it. Pretty good headline over here of, the product title. Show you, the quick reasons why you'd want it. So relieves pressure on the feet and joints, developed by orthopedists. So those are some things that you should look at. I definitely recommend spending some time studying these pages because, if I go over every single point, this video is going to end up being a 3-hour long video. So I want to keep it, within reason. But that's the main components of the sales page that I want to touch on from a Shopify perspective and from a direct response style perspective. So now that we know the pre-lander and the sales page, now let's go into the cart style. So we'll keep it from the Shopify perspective, and then the checkout page, which we'll look at again from both perspectives. Back to this example, let's see what happens when you actually try to check out. So let's do 1 pair and add to cart over here. Taking a second to load. Okay, so this is what happens when we add to cart, and this is what I wanted to mention. So over here is the first place where they're giving you more options to buy more products that make logical sense with that first product you just bought. So if I were to buy 2 pairs over here, what it's offering me over here is insoles for my shoes. So it's giving me something very logical, doesn't take a lot of explaining. And that's really what's key for a slide cart offer is you want something that people don't have to think that much about. They can kind of just glance at it, look at the title, and then understand why that makes logical sense for them to purchase based on that first purchase they just made. So when I'm looking at this, what I might want to add is one of these. It gives me the full flexibility to add it, and then I can just add this easily to my cart. So that's if I add it over here. The thing to mention here is with the slide cart, you can also get people to buy more by incentivizing it instead of giving free shipping. So for example, let's say this was 1 product instead of both of them. And let's say I wasn't getting this upsell. I guess for them, they're just giving free shipping no matter what. But a lot of the times, they won't give you free shipping unless you add one of these products. And it might be a logical number like $25 to get free shipping. So this is, kind of the perfect price point where I know if I add this, I'm going to be able to get free shipping. So that's how the slide cart aspect works to help boost your AOV. Now let's go back to the direct response funnel. And I want to show you guys, there's no slide cart here, but I'm going to go over now the checkout sequence of what this looks like from a direct response perspective. So what this is doing here is it's first off reinforcing, those key benefits so that you can see that at a glance when you get to this style of a page, but it's going to do a lot of the same things that I just mentioned that we just saw on the sales page. So first off over here, they're incentivizing you to add a subscription component, which is going to help with their lifetime value over the long run if you buy it like this. But even if I were to buy it as a one-time purchase, let me show you what happens over here, right? So it's the same exact thing I just mentioned. So it's starting you off at 16 pouches, but if I were to buy 4 pouches, it's going to cost me $11.10 per pouch. If I were to buy 8 pouches, it goes down to $10. If I were to buy 16 pouches, it goes down to $7.77. And if I were to buy 32 pouches, it goes down to $5.54. So again, it's the more I buy, the more I save. And this is a logical product where I'm going to need to buy a lot because I want to probably put this in all the different areas of my house. There's a lot of different rooms I probably need to put it in. So buying more of these will make sense. And especially in the future, if I have this issue, I might want to have some on backup. So what it's really just, putting together is it's giving me the proper incentive to then go out and buy more because it makes sense for me to already buy more. And now with this price point, I'm going to buy more. But reality is 32 times 554 is I end up paying, I don't want to do mental math over here, but we're talking about like over $150 to buy this amount. You guys are seeing how this is going to help boost your average order value. And now just go back to the Shopify example, going back and forth over here. So let's go to checkout. And as you can see over here, what they're doing is they're giving you another potential offer that you can add over here. So what they're doing is I can add this over here, just in case I didn't add it in my slide card. So I can add that quickly over here. They're giving me a shipping protection option. So this is really what's good to add over here. I'm surprised that BugMD doesn't do this, but this is where you can have very simple one-time offers. So like something like this, where this is $5 of pure profit that I'm sure they're probably getting like a 60% take rate because it's already pre-checked, where you add this priority insurance, it adds to your order, and then you have that in your order when you go through it. Plus they have some, testimonials over here and the ability to add more products. So again, they're maximizing AOV here and giving you logical reasons of why you would buy these additional points, which are going to help with their average order value and their overall profitability by adding these different components. So that's on the Shopify style, and that's really how you can maximize checkout performance. All right, guys, now we're going to go through an actual upsell flow, and I definitely recommend that you guys do this for some of your top competitors, is buy the product and go through the upsell flow and sequence so you can see how they're utilizing it. But this is for a different product where you can see when you buy this first product, the best thing to do with e-commerce is offer another one of the same product. So this is after someone bought one of these air purifiers. The first product they're offering you is an air purifier at an additional discount. Very simple style page. You can either say yes or no. So let's just say I say no over here. What it then is offering me is, this looks like a downsell where I can buy an additional 3 for $18 each. So let's say I say no again. So that's what the downsell example looks like. Now it's, wait, here's another way to clean. So it's giving me another offer over here. At this point, I'm not even sure if this is upsell or downsell. Sorry, I wasn't reading this close enough, but you guys can get the sequence over here, hopefully, and you can look through how this is all set up. It's very simple style, additional add-ons. But what's really cool to note with the upsell and downsell sequence is that each one of these products, you already have your conversion rate secured. So everything you offer here is just additional profits and revenue that you're going to make on top of that initial purchase to boost your overall average order value for customers that enter this sequence. So this is a different type of product. Again, giving you an offer like that. And then lastly, this is a completely different product of these, looks like air purifier pouch. So if you look at what I just went through, I think this was 5 different offers that are now presented on this post-purchase sequence before I actually get to this thank you page. And here they're not offering it, but what you can do with a lot of these thank you page offers is usually have another offer over here, especially if you're doing it on Shopify. You definitely should have another offer over here. Unfortunately, I can't show you guys this example from a Shopify website, but this is how this works from a funnel sequence so you guys can understand and visualize how this whole process actually comes together. Okay, so now that you guys have seen all this live and went through these live examples, hopefully you guys have a really good picture and that was super valuable for you guys. But now you can understand, how this full funnel sequence comes together. And hopefully you guys are getting some ideas of why this will really help maximize, first off, conversion rate when you consider the pre-lander page and going through that whole journey. But then average order value where, whether it's on the sales page or the checkout, you're maximizing the offer and you're maximizing the bundles that people will take. And then you have these upsell flows, again, which are going to help maximize that average order value, the downsells when people decline the purchase. So the difference between an upsell and a downsell is that on an upsell offer, if it's the same type of offer, but they decline it, you would give them this downsell. So it's only for people that decline that first offer. So usually it's something that's in sequence with that first offer, where the next upsell might be a completely different offer. So that's really the big differences between those two. So that's how this full funnel sequence works. And this is, why this can really maximize your results. I'm going to come back to these metrics in just a second over here, but what I want to talk about is now that you understand how this all works, the different testing approaches that you can take. So there's two types of tests that I think, this is how I look at it at least. There's micro changes and then macro changes. So a micro change would be like, let's say it's on the pre-lander page and I want to change one part of that page. So, if we remember that example, there's the headline, there's the first part of the article. So this is where you can categorize different building blocks of what makes the page. So the most important thing that you're going to get the most leverage from is always going to be that headline and the above the fold section. So what above the fold section means is when you first go onto a page, so let's go back over here so you can see what I mean by this. So going back to this page, for example, the above the fold area is everything I can see on the screen before needing to move or to scroll. So it's going to be the headline, it's going to be this image, it's going to be that. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about the above the fold section. And what I like to do when I'm doing my micro optimizations is it's going to be on one of these sections. So maybe it's the above the fold section, maybe it's that intro paragraph, maybe it's when you introduce the product, if this was on the pre-lander page. And this can be different depending on what page you're optimizing. But I would start by categorizing these different blocks as different building blocks and then focusing micro changes on that overall section. So if it's the above the fold section, which is where 80% of your test should be, is on that above the fold and making sure you hyper optimize it, looking at that as one block instead of looking at just the headline or just one of the images, categorize them together and then think about what are the main things you can do to optimize that page. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how you're going to get the data to be able to do that. But just so you guys understand from a term perspective, that's what I mean by micro optimizations. Now, macro optimizations would be completely revamping this whole pre-lander page. It would be changing the entire page and changing the entire section. And the way that you want to go about each different type of test, whether it's macro or micro, depends on a few factors. So in the early stages, you're going to want to do a lot more macro tests because macro tests, the difference is it's going to make monumental changes to your conversion rate and potentially your AOV or one or the other, depending on what you're focusing on. But it's going to have a much bigger impact on those changes, but also a much smaller chance that it actually works. Whereas a micro change, there's a much higher chance that that test is actually going to be impactful, but a much smaller difference in change. So micro tests become a lot more effective once you're already doing very well and scaling, where macro changes are going to be much more beneficial in the early stages when you need to get something to actually work or when you're doing a new product launch. So that's how I'm utilizing these two different types of tests. Now, the way that I look at it is, there's two metrics that you're going to look at, which again is going to be your overall conversion rate and then your average order value. So those are going to be the two things that you're probably going to try to optimize. You don't want to optimize both of those at the same time. You want to always isolate one variable. But the way that I look at conversion rate is if I just launched a test, right? And I saw that my conversion rate was complete shit. Then what I would try to identify is why is it complete shit? So I would first look at, from a pre-lander page perspective, what's my pre-lander CTR? What's the click-through rate I'm getting from this pre-lander page to then getting people onto the sales page? And if that's anywhere below 30%, 20% really is like a low line because this can vary, but let's just say 20 to 30% as a benchmark. If it's below that percentage, then that's probably your biggest bottleneck because again, most people are going to start at this page. So if I have 100 people that are clicking off an ad, 100 people are going to end up here. And if I'm only getting, let's say 10 people to end up on this page, then this is definitely my biggest bottleneck and what I need to optimize. So if I'm in the early stages, I might just completely revamp this page. Now, let's say I'm within my benchmark and it's at around 30%. This is where then I might start to do, and let's say the conversion rate is decent, but I want to improve it. This is where I might then do a micro change instead of a macro change and just try to optimize the above the fold section. So hopefully this is making sense from like a testing philosophy of how you can go about it. But those are the first things that I'm going to look at, right? So it's micro versus macro change. The trick I'm going to look at for this, if it's the pre-lander page, is always every metric I'm rooting into the overall conversion rate. Now, if I see that my CTR is lower, then that's when I'm going to decide to make those optimizations on the pre-lander page. But let's say the CTR is really good. Let's say it's 50% for this example. And my sales page, I'm going to look at these three things together. So first off, I'm going to look at the conversion rate from a sales page perspective. So not the overall conversion rate, but the sales page conversion rate. So that's the first thing. If this metric is down, then I'm going to try to understand why is it down? Is it my add to cart rate is super low? So that's the percentage of people that go from this page, either if it's on Shopify to the cart page or directly to the checkout page. So is that percentage lower? Is it my initiate checkout that's lower? So is it the cart percentage? So this is really for Shopify, but is it the cart percentage of people that end up on the checkout page? Is that lower than it should be? And depending on which part of this is lower than what it should be, that's where I'm then going to decide to optimize. So if the add to cart rate is too low, then it probably means my sales page isn't incentivizing people enough to add to cart. And a good benchmark here would probably be at least 10%, upwards of even 20%, depending on how high or how low the pre-lander page is. But that's kind of the ratio. And this is going to vary completely for products. So just really take what I'm saying with a grain of salt for these benchmark metrics. At the end of the day, all that matters is that your overall conversion rate is good. If your overall conversion rate is good, it doesn't matter what any of these other metrics are. But that's how I'm then going to decide whether I'm going to do micro or macro changes on any of these sections or any of these parts of the flow. And then for upsell pages, it's going to be really on an individual page by page basis, but I'm going to start my optimization with upsell 1 because this is where most people will end up. So this is the one that, and also another thing to note is that with each upsell, the conversion rate will go down and down. So the take rate of people that take it, but a good benchmark will be 20%, where the lower end should be like 10%. And that's even as you're going through upsell offers. Unless it's like a higher ticket type of upsell, then maybe it can be a lower percentage. But really the metric you want to look at here is your earnings per click or earnings per visit on this. So that's really what I'm trying to optimize, because the earnings per visit is a combination of the conversion rate plus the average order value. And you want to get that to a point where the earnings per visit is the direct impact you're adding onto your AOV after that initial purchase. So for example, if that initial purchase was $100, but I could add earnings per visit of $5 for people that visit this page, which theoretically should be 100% of the customers, I'm now adding $5 directly on top of that AOV that I didn't have before. So that's why I look at it like that. And that's a really good way to try to optimize these different sections. But at a high level, that's the types of metrics I'm looking at. And when I'm looking at the average order value, that's how I decide what I optimize. So depending on which one of these are lower on the front end perspective, that's where I'm going to then do my optimization. And then I decide, do I need to make a macro change or a micro change to that section? And if it's AOV, the levers that can happen are really, I look at it as two different components. And I have a whole video, I'll try to link that down below, of how I look at different metrics. So this should be helpful from the funnel perspective. But what I'm trying to look at here is my pre-purchase offers versus my post-purchase offers. So the pre-purchase would be stuff like my price point, my offer altogether. So that can be things like, just what I'm putting together to make that more valuable. It can be the bundles that I'm putting together, like I showed you guys in the example. The pre-purchase offers, so that can be anything in the slide cart, or if I have something on my checkout page. So it's the offers that I have there versus the post-purchase, which are the individual upsell page offers and thank you page offers. So that's how I try to break it down, because pre-purchase, when I try to optimize that can also affect my conversion rate, where post-purchase isn't going to affect my conversion rate. So I can actually always be independently split testing these offers. So it's less of something I have to do as like a front end type of test. It's more something I can always do, where what I'm really trying to optimize is more so that AOV effectors on the pre-purchase stuff. That's really where you can get a bigger impact, is looking at things like that. So that's usually how I'm trying to break down my testing sequence in this overall funnel flow. Throat is starting to hurt from all this talking. I should make a full-fledged course at this point, the length of this type of video. But anyways, guys, so now that we understand the full funnel flow, hopefully, with the live examples, so hopefully you guys are tying everything back to those examples that I showed you as I'm explaining each one of these steps. And now hopefully you guys understand kind of the philosophy of micro changes versus macro changes. let's actually go into how to tactically execute on everything I just went over. Okay, so the first point is going to be data. So this applies for really any type of page, but let's use the pre-lander page as the example. So the first thing I'm going to look at is what's the data that I'm getting. So again, let's pretend we're trying to optimize conversion rate, right? And let's say the conversion rate is lower than we want, and we identify that our pre-lander CTR is super low. So what are the data points I can look at of what I would optimize, right? So going back over here, the first thing is we can get surveys from our customers. So this is something that you can actually put into the end. So on the thank you page, you can have something that leads into a survey, or maybe they get an additional discount. But what you can do here is really just ask questions of what made people want to purchase, what led them through this point. And this can give you just some insights of what the customer is thinking that you can utilize. But for CVR and for CRO, conversion rate optimization, this is going to be one of your most powerful tools, heat maps. So what a heat map is it's tracking all live visitors that come on your site, and it creates a heat map where it shows the most engaged points, the percentage that people scroll throughout the page, and just also what percentage of people actually end up to the product description section where you're going through those benefits and features. You can see like what percentage of people actually scroll to that point. You can see so many different metrics, and you can be able to track all of that with a heat map. Plus, you can also get screen recordings where if you go through 100 of those and see what are the drop-off points of live visitors that come to this page, you'll learn very quickly what are the reasons why people are not getting to that next page. So that's another big data point you can look at, is heat maps of visitors that come on your site to see and try to hypothesize why people are not getting to that next page. Of course, just your overall analytics. So this is where you would see that CTR and all that kind of stuff. And then, and this is from a pre-lander perspective, but I'm just talking about from data, overall. Another thing you can look at is, cross-referencing campaigns with your high roast or triple whale data. That's another piece you could look at. And then also your winning ads is a big data point. So this will give you ideas of, let's say your main angle for one of your winning ads is scoliosis for back pain, right? For an example. If that's the main angle, but your funnel, when people get to it, is not talking anything to do with scoliosis, you're probably going to have a huge drop-off rate on this. So you want to then optimize based on the angles or the data points that you see working in your ads and try to conglomerate all of those. So at a high level with the pre-lander page, what I try to do is I try to look at a combination of what are my winning ads saying and how can I make this page still as broad as possible, but make sure I'm touching on those main points so that I can really hit on all of those points on a very broad perspective on the pre-lander page. So let's say my main angles for back pain is scoliosis and sciatica. I want to make sure that I'm talking about both of those points, but touching on it from the general scope of back pain now. So really what I look at it is like your ads are kind of the preview to this page, and this page should be the full length movie that can touch on all of those points no matter what direction people came from to have a hyper optimized version of this page. I know some people do pages where they have individual pages per angle, which can work really well. I just find that it's much more hard to maintain that. So what I try to do is really just keep everything super broad, have one core page that we're sending most of our traffic to so that all my optimizations can compound on that page rather than having to do individual optimizations on each of those pages. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's how I look at it. Some people have different ways of going about it, but that's from a data perspective. So the first thing you're going to do is look at all of these different data points that I mentioned, and there's much more. Those are just a few examples, to try to then come up with your own reasoning as to why this page isn't getting the click-through rate it needs, or for this, it's not getting enough add to carts it needs, and so on and so forth, depending on what page you're actually optimizing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is then based on that data point and based on the conclusions that you come to, then doing research into your customer market to understand what are some things that you can do differently. This is if you're going to do a copywriting change, or if you're writing a funnel from scratch, the research is going to be something you need. But if it's a micro change, this doesn't all apply. I just want to touch on all these points so you can understand whether it's a macro change or a micro change. What are the things you can look at? If it's a micro change, you don't have to go into all of these different points because at that point, you probably have most of the research done. But if it's something that you want to completely revamp your funnel, you're going to want to go and to do more research to try to carve that story or carve, that unique mechanism of your product that you're trying to show, or try to change that headline from a touch point that resonates the most with your customer audience and that they're going to want to read the rest of your advertorial from if you hit them from that point. So all that's going to come from doing the research. That's the next part. Now, competitor reverse engineering. This is really one of the most important parts, where first off, you have to be able to identify what a winning funnel is versus a non-winning funnel. So the way that I identify this is I use a tool called SimilarWeb, which I can show you guys an example. So for example, this is BugMD's page over here. So let's take a look at what SimilarWeb would tell us over here. So SimilarWeb is showing us that this page is getting 3 million monthly visitors. That's a tremendous amount of visitors that are coming to this site. And if you just do a little bit of like reverse engineering on that, and we can assume that they're getting, at least a 2 or 3% conversion rate. Let's say it's 3%. 3% conversion rate on that would be, this is a lot of mental math right here. That would be 90K conversions. So 90K conversions, and let's just assume, we're talking about $100. We're talking about 9 million a month, and maybe even potentially more. So that's how insane that is. And that's how you can start to identify, going back over here, that's how you can identify, first off, how much traffic someone's getting. Another way to look at it is you can go to Facebook ads library, and I like to look at how many active ads there are. So if there's like above 70 active ads, that's probably a good sign that they're scaling and getting a lot of traffic, even if SimilarWeb is not showing that much traffic. The other way that you can confirm it is just order. And if it's on Shopify especially, you'll get an order number, so you'll know exactly how many orders that they've got. And that's, really just the process also of funnel hacking, of doing what I showed you, where you can start to see the upsell sequence, the back-end side of that funnel, so that you can start to get data points on the full funnel and be able to see not just like the surface level, but actually go behind the scenes of what's actually allowing that funnel to scale, which a lot of it's probably those upsell offers and other pieces there. So that's on the competitor reverse engineering. And when I'm doing my briefs, like let's say I wanted to run a pre-lander page, I'm never going to just copy a pre-lander page, but what I would do is I would kind of make my own Frankenstein skeleton of it. So maybe I like one part from the BugMD page, maybe I like another one from a different advertorial or a different funnel, but maybe I like how they're doing the problem presentation in one funnel, but I like the product, section explanation in another funnel. I'll take different components that I like and different ways of presentation, put that together in my own brief, and then have that framework or idea of like a new, completely original concept, because I took it from all these different places, to then come and make my own funnel framework from, and then start writing the copy from there. So I like to take pieces and different sections from a bunch of different competitors so that I can get my own skeleton that's original. So that's how I do it. Then for the copy and briefing, with ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other AI tools that you use, you can do most of the copywriting with that directly. The way to do the copywriting is, if you do that Frankenstein method, you can take those exact passages, put that into ChatGPT or whatever AI you're using, and then based on that, you can then just prompt it to say, let's say it's the problem section. You can say, I want to talk about a problem. And from your research, you can plug in, some of those problems. Maybe you found some in a Reddit thread of a really good problem that you want to talk about specifically. So you can say, for my product of back pain, I want to talk about this exact problem. I want to talk about, point X, Y, and Z. My customer demographic is X, Y, and Z. Let's write this problem stage in the same way that it's formatted in this example version, right? That's if I want to use it. Or if you want to be original, you can not even have that example version, but just give as much detail as possible when you're doing the prompting. That's the main tip I'll give you over there. And also just, understand direct response copywriting. Don't just rely fully on AI. Like, read through all those example advertorials, try to reverse engineer, try to rewrite some of those yourself so that you understand these frameworks and these patterns that continuously show themselves, so that you can be the best prompt engineer possible when you're doing that. So that's what's super important on the copywriting and the briefing. UX and graphics. So once you have all of these points, right? So let's just kind of start from the top, where, the first point is you're looking at data of your funnel, you're understanding what you need to fix. Second point is you've done research and you do more research. So, same process as my creatives process of how I do research. So I have another video on this channel. You can watch that. I go in depth into the research process. So there's nothing really different about that. That's why I'm not touching so much on it over here. But you do the research process. Then you do competitor reverse engineering. So you understand what are the funnels working, what is the skeleton framework that you want to use, put all those pieces together. You've now done your copy, you fill that all in, all that is put together. Now you also can do some briefing of what are the exact graphics you want. So what are the pieces you need to fill? Also potential animations, like I showed you guys in earlier examples. A lot of those are GIFs or animations or a combination of those. So having a designer that you can send that to, whether it's freelancer or full-time, to get those pieces needed. And then also a UX design. So this can be, especially if you're making a completely new sales page, you're probably going to need a UX designer. So again, you can do freelancer or hire someone full-time for that to make a mock-up design of either your skeleton, or you can just say, hey, I want to, reference this competitor. Let's use this type of framework. Let's make this style of UX design, but, let's change this, this, and this. That's how you'll be able to get, the full framework to come to life. Then, it's a matter of sending it over to a developer. Again, this can be a freelancer or someone on your team. You send that to them. They put everything together. So they take that UX design that's already mapped out. They take the copywriting that you already have put together. They take the graphics and the GIFs and all the stuff that you have plugged in, put that all into the actual funnel, and then you launch, right? And once you launch, it's just a continuous cycle of doing this same thing, of reviewing the data, understanding which part of the funnel needs to be optimized. First off, if it's the AOV or the conversion rate. If it's the conversion rate, understanding which part needs to be optimized, or if it's the AOV, is it pre-sell or post-purchase that needs to be optimized? So pick which part needs to be optimized. Look at, is it a micro change, or is it this whole thing needs to be scrapped and revamped? And then use this exact process I just went over of, doing the research, understanding what parts of the competitors you want to reference, doing copywriting. And again, for the copywriting, my creatives video, I go very in depth into that. So it's the same exact principles that apply there. But you can really just take that skeleton process, do a lot of that. As long as you've done in-depth research and plug that into your prompting, it's going to be super effective on the copywriting part. And then, UX and graphics, use people on Fiverr, use people on Upwork if you don't have a team. If you have a team, then you already know what to do. Just send it to them, get all of those pieces made out, do the full web development cycle, and then just continuously go through this flywheel process. So guys, this is my longest video on this channel yet, so I'm going to wrap up over here, but hopefully you guys understand this whole sequence, right? And again, the impact of what this was able to do for me is when I first was starting, I was using just a basic Shopify store. And that's why, at that point, I wasn't using any of those principles I just mentioned, and I was stuck at $10,000 a month. Once I implemented this full sales funnel and this full sequence, I added the advertorial, I made the direct response sales page, I added the full, checkout sequence and upsell flow. I was able to take my conversion rate up. And what you're not seeing here as well, the AOV went from, I believe, around $60 to $105 by utilizing this process. So I was able to start scaling as a result of it. And then this was another store. Just a year later, I was able to get to $3 million a month by really focusing on the advertorial, focusing on maximizing the conversion rate. Obviously, there's other aspects, right? My creatives were really good. We were scaling multi-channel. We really started to build a full infrastructure, right? So it's not just the funnel, but 100% we wouldn't have been able to scale without the funnel to these types of numbers. Where now, we're on pace, hopefully this year, to do over $50 million in sales this year alone. And again, none of that is possible without the funnel. So I hope this video was impactful for you guys. My throat is starting to hurt from how much I was speaking. So if you guys got value, I'd really appreciate the comment below, a like on this video, subscribing to the channel, and ask me questions, guys. I heard you guys talk about the funnels. That's why I made this video. So ask me questions. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and I'm going to consider that and potentially do my next video on that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys enjoyed.